if you can make it in the Quebec market, you can make it in the rest of Canada. Now, if you can be alone or almost alone in the Canadian market as a whole, you can make it as a business. There are enough consumers in Canada to have you have a successful business. Yeah. And the fact that Canada is such an afterthought to the US, the ideas are already there. Now it's just about tweaking them a little bit to the Canadian market.
Making the name French. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Just add a le in front of it and like you're good,
literally
right?
Add le.
Chemical X.
What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 102 of the Chemical X podcast, aka second episode. I'm Alessia.
I'm Veronica, and today we have a super special guest. Welcome, Daniel, to the podcast.
How's it going?
Welcome. And guys, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment down below. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. If you're a friend of Daniel, it would be really mean if you don't do that, especially on an entrepreneur podcast. Like, what the hell?
Literally.
You know what I mean? Support your locals.
We've had a lot of people call in, and ask for a business podcast. And, as two struggling entrepreneurs, we figured, we don't have the credibility to give it. So we're going to put someone on who definitely knows what it's like to be successful.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Do you think you're successful?
No.
Right.
Here we go.
I feel like every business.
I wanted to ask that because I feel like every successful person never thinks they're like successful enough.
I think success is measurable, and it depends what your definition of success is. Mm-hmm. So I think it's constantly a moving target that every time you achieve something, it always moves to a different plateau. You have a lot of people who say, I want to be a millionaire, but what happens when you're a millionaire?
Right.
You have to move that target because being a millionaire is no longer your goal. If you just end it right there, then what do you do? You just end your life? Like, no, you're going to continue on and you're going to raise your goals and you're going to say, well, I want 5 or I want 10 or I want 50. So I think success is, it's a measurable unit that's constantly changing.
I agree. Are you happy with where you are right now?
Loaded question. I think that it could always be better, and I think that I've always wanted to accomplish what I've accomplished at this point, but I think also at this point I could be more and better than what I'm currently doing. So again, I think anybody who is an entrepreneur, who has an entrepreneurial spirit, is constantly just moving their targets on where they're happy, and they always constantly want more. I don't think that anybody is going to be able to be like, that's it. 35 years old.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm happy. Shut it down. Retire. Live on a beach.
I mean,
35 and successful. That's something.
At a beach.
Retire
for me, it's a beach.
So for anyone who doesn't know, do you want to give people just an insight to your businesses and what you do on the daily?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Go Test Rapide. Those of you who are in Montreal, Quebec, maybe even Canada, know about the company. We were a COVID testing company. We brought the DriveThru model to Canada. I'm also the CEO and co-founder. Yeah,
literally.
Well,
thank you for allowing me to travel when no one was.
You're welcome. I'm also the co-founder of Something Neon. We don't talk about this.
We won't talk about this.
Okay.
We won't talk about all the neon signs we have in here that are not his.
It'll be an off-camera
I'm honestly surprised you came on. If
I
I knew it would affect my branding like this, I don't think I would have came.
I'm beyond disappointed, but it's okay. We'll continue with the podcast anyways. It's fine. I'll send you an invoice when we're done.
So how did you come up with the idea to start a testing drive-through company here in Montreal?
So it's, I guess, a very long explanation, which I'll shorten down for everybody's benefit here. But basically, during COVID, everybody was just trying to do what they could do to make a buck and just to keep going, because nobody was really sure what the landscape would look like during COVID. So I was involved in a lot of PPE deals. That's like masks and gowns, and everybody and their grandmother started selling masks at one point. And my customer base was here in Canada, and my partner, who's now my partner, called me up one day, and he's like, I have a box of like Health Canada approved antigen tests, and I kept hearing from my sources like in the US that they're just like testing is the future, and I'm like, okay, great, how many do you have? He's like, I have 800, and I'm like, you know, when you're brokering PPE, you're adding like 50 cents, you're adding 25 cents,
right?
But there's not a lot of money to be made on 800 units of something,
right?
So I basically told him, I'm like, listen, to pick up the phone and to start calling people to try to make like $400 that we're going to split 2 ways doesn't make any sense. So I hung up the phone and I thought about it for a little bit, and I picked it up. I'm like, why don't we go direct to consumer with it? And he's like, well, what do you mean? So I'm like, we felt that there was a need for testing. It was coming. COVID was being a lot more active in Canada. And we just basically discussed it, and we're just like, let's partner with nursing agencies and give the test to them. No commitment, because people didn't have money at that point. Like,
and
people
I'm
were
sure
they were so like holding on to it.
Right.
And they were never going to make it.
Yeah, and I'm sure when you went directly to nurses, they were like, people ask us for COVID tests all the time.
And they couldn't get them because they were so scarce at that time. So my partner and I were just like, okay, let's
There's a need.
buy the fucking box. And we assumed the cost of it, and we partnered with these nursing agencies, and we're just like, okay, like, maybe it's going to take a month to get rid of it. You know, it was like I think it was $11,000 US for the box.
Okay.
And we're just like, okay, let's do it. And I think within a week, we're just like, we're out of fucking stock. So like, we turned, $11,000 worth of COVID tests into 75 grand.
Wow.
And then we're just like, we need more inventory. And my partner,
You're like, where the hell could we get more?
No, so my partner is like a product procurement like wizard. Like,
okay.
The guy can write a fucking book. And anyways, he
Just
got
wanna come on?
he got more. You don't want this guy on
He's
camera.
like, you want me?
He's a behind the scenes guy. He's a great fucking guy, but he knows he's not made for camera.
And I
Can't
am.
have it all.
No, but he's so good at what he does. And basically, he found more, and to the point where we were partnering with like 6-7 different nursing agencies. And we reached this kind of glass ceiling where there's just like, how many nurses are there that can provide patients, right?
And at this point, were you just selling the COVID test to
We were just
them?
selling it to the nursing agency. We were letting the nursing agencies take care of finding the customers because they were their customers
Which
already.
is smart.
They all had their own reach, and we were just basically providing tests. And instead of trying to make literally a dollar on it, we were saying, okay, well, you know, what can we get for providing the service, of providing this kind of turnkey service for the customer,
right?
Where we're sending the nurse, we're giving the test, and we know it was hard to get.
Yeah,
like,
and you're making it
easier for everyone.
100%. So
because they couldn't have tests.
And this is where we kind of came in with the idea, is that we quickly realized, you know, like there's so many companies that do it. I'm going to name two, which is Amazon and Uber, right? Amazon and Uber for me are the perfect examples of companies that figured it out, and they just said, you know what, we may not even need to be the cheapest, but if we are the most convenient, we're going to get the customer. Right? So if you can open up your phone and get an Uber and click a button and a car shows up in front of your house, beautiful. If you don't have to leave your house and go to Walmart to order toilet paper or whatever it is, even better. Now, are you going to start to see if they're like $1 more or $1 less? I'm going to say that 99% of people won't. They're just like, what's convenient?
It's efficient. Like, we'll do it.
Exactly.
Especially after COVID, and I think it really changed the idea. It's always been like convenience, but I think after COVID, when everyone was home and it was like food delivery, you know, Amazon deliveries, everything delivery was all about like how fast you can get something. It doesn't matter what the price is. And even me as a person, like I will always say, like, I 100% value convenience over anything else. I will pay more for something to be more convenient for me.
Absolutely.
Whether it comes to healthcare or anything, I'll always pay more for convenience. And that's just like the society we're in. We want like this like instant gratification, as you've said in the past. And that's what, and it's just like worse and worse, because now it's like, I find myself going, can I get an Amazon order like same day? Like if I order this one, is it gonna come tonight?
But they programmed us to be this way.
We've gotten so like spoiled by it. Yeah. Just like, Wednesday delivery, absolutely not. I'm gonna go try to find a Tuesday delivery.
Which obviously sucks for like small businesses and stuff, but like as much as it sucks, but like Amazon is not going to get.
But this is just the way that it is. Yeah, it's the way that business works, and I think that the people who have grasped the concept
Yeah.
of how to approach business in this day and age, and you know, let's say since 2020, we're talking COVID here, those businesses have succeeded. People have pivoted their businesses into these kind of online bring it to your house
Right.
type things where they're just like, okay, we can inflate the price a little bit, but as long as you give the convenience, never be afraid to charge. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that they're trying to go for the lowest price. Yeah, but the lowest price means lowest margins. Lowest margins means the worst customer support that's humanly possible. And at that point, you're just like, you know what, I'd rather pay a little bit more and get a service, get an actual like bonded service. We were sitting there and we're going, okay, how many tests were we able to do a day? We had let's say 25 nurses that were working under our umbrella, and we were only able to do like 8 tests per nurse, and we're sitting there going like, that's great, not enough.
Right.
And that's where you have this kind of this difference of attitude between somebody who maybe runs a business and an entrepreneur. And that's what I think is kind of a defining skill, if you will. It's just like, you look at it and you go, I have something here, the iron's hot, like let's push it as far and as fast as humanly possible. And that's what we did. And I remember I've been following COVID since 2019 in December, saying like, we're all fucked. I deal with China every single day. I talk to them. The reason why I got into COVID, I guess, in the first place was because of my contacts in China that are just saying like, this shit is for real. Like, we are going into quarantine. We are masking. My neon sign provider called me, and he's like, shit's going down here. He's like, can I send you some masks? I'm like, send me some masks. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, I want a neon sign.
No. I mean, like, anyway, so he's like, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, fuck it. And then he wanted to send us some like N95s, you know, like the white medical ones. And we were so worried at the time with something neon. We were worried. We were just like, you know, is this upper middle class that we sell to gonna disappear? Because who's walking around with 2 G's or 3 G's or $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 to spend on signs when they're worried about like the economy shutting down, and
a lot of people lost their job as well.
So many people lost their job. So we're sitting there going like, how the fuck do we stay relevant? So, and he's like, I'll send you these masks, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't want those. And I was searching and I found these pink cloth, like very like yoga-esque materials, like kind of like Lululemon. And
Veronica bought one. Veronica bought one.
Oh yeah, well, thank you very much. I'll dedicate my next car payment to you.
You know, I love a good pink.
So we found our company colors are pink, right? So I'm just like, you know what? I'm like, this might be really interesting, because if I can get these pink masks, and you know, we'll put them online, we'll see what happens. Like, I think we ordered like 40 or 80 masks. I can't even remember at this point. And I'm like, let's just find a way to stay in people's minds. 'Cause I didn't know if COVID was going to be, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Nobody knew. Everybody was like, it's like over 2 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I was just like, we need to find a way to stay relevant while people are safeguarding their money.
Yeah.
So I got these masks, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's kitschy, but who knows? So anyways, we got the order of masks. I'm like, fuck it. Let's just put it online. We put it on the website. Within an hour, we were sold out.
Crazy.
And then I was just like, oh, but hold on a second. I think there's a business here, right? Because I'm saying sold out in an hour. So I call my guy in China, and I'm just like, I need 400. Then we relisted the inventory, and it was sold out in 4 hours. So I'm like, okay, next call. I'm like, I need 4,000.
Yeah.
By the time the 4,000 landed, we had so many backed up orders. I'll never forget. My wife and I used to work at like 2:00 in the morning, getting these orders ready, and like the packing slips and all this shit. We were making mailers to like receive the items, just so it kind of looked sort of semi-professional.
Right.
And like, I just remember like a stack of papers like this of orders we needed to fill, and we didn't have the masks. There was a shipping nightmare in China. Logistics was completely fucked at that point. I don't know if you guys remember, but like DHL packages were taking like 45 days. It was insane. So anyways, we got the masks, and by the time the 4,000 units landed, we were sold out. So our next order was 20,000. And it was kind of the same trend over and over again. And I mean, like, it was great. We were providing a service to the community. We were donating. We were giving to people.
For anyone who is ordering, you have like a percentage.
You mean like inventory?
Yeah, inventory wise. Obviously, everything is different, but would you suggest a certain number?
it depends what you want your exposure to be. If you're saying, well, you know what, I'm willing to risk $1,000 to try this venture, and that $1,000 gets you 1,000 units because you bought them for $1 a piece, then it's not so bad, right? But if your $1,000 only gets you 2 pieces of your product, right? It's like, what are you really investing? Okay, great. So you have 2 products. Great, you sell them, now what, right?
Absolutely.
So it's about lead times, it's about logistics. Right now, the logistics channels are completely backed up. It's still a complete nightmare. Anything with DHL, UPS, anything shipping by boat. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that I would recommend a certain amount, but I think you need to gauge of what you want from your business. So if your goal is to make $10,000, then you need to order enough stuff to make $10,000, right? So I think that's probably more important than buying like 1 or 2 or 3 or 20 items and just being like, I'm just going to sell these and see what happens. I think that you need to have a proper business plan. I think that you need to understand what you want from that business. Is it a hobby? Is it a business? Is it a brand? Is it a product? If you can understand what you are asking for, then I think your decisions become a lot easier. But I think you need to have a vision. It's very short-sighted if you're just like, oh, let me just go and try to like sell this on like Amazon or sell it to my friends. Then it's a hobby, really. I mean, like, it's okay. Hobbies are great. And if it makes you money, even better. But I think that you really need to understand what you're trying to get from it before you just kind of go nose first into something. And you're just like, oh, fuck it. Just let me order something and see if I could sell it. I think that's a little bit short-sighted.
And at the same time, it's a little bit hard to gauge because, like you said, the first time you ordered the mask, you ordered a very small quantity. Right. And, you know, you got a response that you weren't necessarily expecting, and then you adapted to that. So as much as you can like plan and think and put so much effort, it's like at the end of the day, what will happen, and then you work from that.
Well, that's I think is like the real point of the conversation is that you're setting like, what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is somebody who can think quickly on their feet, and when they see a problem, just think critically on how to solve that problem. Right? The pandemic really accentuated all the people who were actual entrepreneurs, and it put aside the people who wanted to sit at home and take CERB for 2 years or a year and a half or whatever it was. Right. So again, as an entrepreneur, you see a problem, you try to fix that problem as quickly and as seamlessly as possible.
So what were you doing before something what? Neon and before Go Test Rapide?
I was an electrician.
Okay.
Well, I feel like a lot of people... I think actually a lot of successful entrepreneurs come from a background that doesn't necessarily... Did you study in business or anything?
No.
So
I barely studied at all for anything throughout my entire life.
Well, I think...
It's always like the troublemakers in school
I'll never forget it. I remember my history teacher gave me I think it was for like my 3rd semester. She gave me 18% overall on my history course. Like, that was my mark, 18%.
Well, glad you're not in history.
Yeah, no, I'm not a historian, that's for sure. But I do remember that very well. And you know, she fucking just like lit me up. Like, after class, she would like talk to me and tell me like, I'm not gonna be anything and blah blah blah. And I was just like, you know what, like, big fuck you coming. So finals came.
Here's the fuck you.
Yeah, finals came, and all I had to do, I knew what the fucking test was going to be on because it was one fucking book. It was Mario Duplessis and his fucking Back to the Land policy. Never forget. And basically, like, 2 days before the final exam, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to read this fucking thing like back to back to back. And I remember studying for this thing, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I feel fucking ready. I went into the final exam. I got like 86%. Like, you get your mark like 2 weeks later. I went back, I got my mark. I remember going upstairs with my fucking history book, and I walked up to my teacher's class, and I just like 86%, and I chucked the book at her. I was such a piece of shit in high school.
Well, it looks like she had to do that in order for you to do it.
You know what? But like, that's what I think makes a person, right? It's not necessarily about like what you've like been fed, but like how you respond, how you deal with it, and like how you respond. Like, hearing these like negative things and having people tell you that you're not going to amount to anything. These are the things that drive you and that build your desire.
So
and, like,
true.
It's so fucked up because, like, you think about it, like, nobody should have to hear these things. And, like, especially now, everybody's so coddled in school. Like, they want to give you 2nd and 3rd place ribbons just for showing up. And it's like, I don't get it necessarily. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that I personally don't understand it. I know what did well for me, and I know what put me into this position today. And I'm thankful for everything that I've learned and experienced, good or bad. I don't think it really matters. I think that all of that combined builds you into who you are. And I think that's probably the most important thing.
I also think that like entrepreneurial qualities, just like creativity, is something that you can't be taught. It's something that just comes naturally to someone. Just like having good ideas, it's like as much as you can go out and you can refine how you maybe put out your ideas or, you know, the way you do business, these qualities are things that in a way you're just born with and just come naturally to you. And that ability to... I relate it to creativity because I'm more of a creative person rather than a business person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just something that comes naturally to you. It's like the good ideas come just like you're saying. Like you're seeing an opportunity and you're acting quickly on it and you have all these skills that come. It's not something that you're taught in school. You don't get a business degree and they tell you like, you know, how to. It's all, like you said, what you do with it.
Yeah, so I don't think you can like teach somebody how to be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying you can't teach somebody how to run a business. I think that these are two completely different things. There's reasons why people are employed by, you know, bosses and owners of companies, and there's a reason why there's people who own those fucking companies.
Right.
So I don't think it's a skill that you can acquire. I think it's like you either have it or you don't, and it's okay if you don't. But if you do, make sure you take advantage of it because it can be extremely rewarding. It could also be the worst fucking time of your life. Speaking for any entrepreneur that's watching this, I mean, like we all know what we go through. There's days of like extreme highs. There's days of extreme lows where it seems like nobody wants to answer your emails or no one's answering your LinkedIn DMs or anything like that. Like it's such a roller coaster, and you just need to, like, I guess for lack of a better term, you need to have the balls to do it.
I also think it's not like when you're employed where like you leave, you clock out and you don't have to worry about it. It's like it never stops. It's always on your mind. There's no days off.
There's literally zero
never.
days off. There's days where I like promise myself I'm shutting my phone and I just can't. It's like impossible.
Yeah.
I get anxiety. I have heart palpitations. Like it's impossible to do. And I think that whether it's good or bad, I just think that that's what's built into it, right? So like if you're just like, you know what, like I'm going out and partying with my friends this weekend, and like you're pretending, because there's a lot of pretenders out there who pretend to be like, I hate the word serial entrepreneur. Every time I hear the word serial entrepreneur, you're talking about guys who have never exited a company, who have never built up a company to have a 6, 7, 8 figure revenue. You're just talking about a bunch of guys who say that they're the CEO of something. You're the only fucking employee. You know what I mean?
I'm CEO of Chemical X.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it makes sense because you can be. Well, you're more like the CTO from after watching what you've done here. But no, but it's like it's funny, and there's a lot of people who pretend, which is okay. You can pretend. There's no issue with that. That's between you and God, right? But I just think that there's a lot of people who need to take a good hard look in the mirror and understand what they're doing, and if they're spinning their wheels really fast and not going anywhere. I think this is it's something that you see a lot in a lot of entrepreneurs, and it doesn't mean it's bad. And I've done it too. That your brain is going 1,000,000 miles a minute, and your legs are also doing the same, but you're not actually going anywhere. But if you can take the time to really analyze what you're doing and just take a break and reflect and write things down and say, you know what, last week was a bad fucking week. I did a lot of work. I got nowhere. But I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to write shit down, and I'm going to go attack shit one by one, and I don't give a fuck. Nobody's stopping me. I'm going to make, you know what I mean? I'm going to make sure that I get my list done this week, and those are the people who will end up succeeding. As long as you can have forward momentum and keep doing, like I've had fucking days where you think you're like on top of the world, and it didn't make me an extra $1.
Right.
But then you have days where you're just like, you know what, deep breath, let me recharge, let me write shit down, let me see what I got to go through, and then you just do it task by task by task, and you look at the end of the week and you're just like, I got a lot of shit done. And you know, there's a lot of people who reward themselves, and people reward themselves in different ways. Some people like to go out on the weekends. It's not really my thing. I'll take a vacation and go somewhere for 3-4 days and just recharge the batteries and come back fresh. So I think that's another important thing, is that you reward yourself for a job well done. It sometimes it can't just be like work 365.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to reward yourself, and I think that's important too. But sometimes the rewards cost money, and if you're not making money, it starts to be really fucking difficult,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get caught up, where they're just like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm working so
Yeah.
hard. I have no extra income. I'm watching my friends go on vacations who are working 9 to 5 jobs. Maybe it's just easier. I go and make $22 an hour somewhere. And then just, 5 o'clock, it hits 5 o'clock and you just shut down and you're just
clock
like, I don't
out.
think of the fucking business anymore. So yeah, there's all kinds of different aspects. Being an entrepreneur is multi-layered. There's no simple explanation to be like, here's the fucking guide to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I hate those fucking people who are just like, sorry, I just keep cutting you off.
no, go.
I hate these people. You see them on like Instagram all the time where they're just like, here's 5 steps to being a successful entrepreneur. And it's just like,
I just feel like I don't like listening to anyone who hasn't made it. Like, it's just, I feel like a lot of people talk and it's like, well, what have you done?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll listen to the person who's made it or who's done it and who's in my field, but I won't listen to somebody who has never done it.
You
And I
probably
feel like there's a
shouldn't.
lot of those, like 5 steps to this, but like, have you even
they're
done it
selling
yourself?
fucking
It's-
guides on the internet for $17. Like, what do you expect? They're again,
Yeah.
you don't know who they are because it's some fucking ad that you're seeing from California. They're salesmen. They're used car salesmen. That's what they're doing. But they
Right.
found something that may make them a little bit of money. But I don't know if they've ever succeeded, right?
So how did you go from pivoting your business, Go Test Rapide, which is the COVID testing? How did you go from selling directly to nurses to opening up a drive-thru?
So that was an interesting time. So I remember I was actually reading a news article, and in the news article there was like a linked picture, and I clicked on the linked picture, and it was an article from South Korea. And in that article, they were just showing a bunch of people in, like, remember those days, those hazmat suits, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously no longer the case, but at that time, people were just in hazmat suits and face shields, and they were literally like, at least they looked like they were checking people in to be tested in their cars.
Right.
And something inside of me just said, like, this is great. Not only is this an efficient way to bring people to you, but it's you're self-contained and you're like isolated in your car. Like, people didn't want nurses going to their house because, like, you're a stranger and you may have COVID and you're
Right.
gonna, like, kill my grandfather.
It
right?
seems like now that it's a thing, it seems like the only smart way of doing it. Like, you're isolated in your car, you don't have to get out, it's easy, it's convenient, and
fast.
you get your results.
It was fast. You were in and out, and it took like 2 minutes to register. You were in and out, paid, goodbye, here's your results. We developed an automation platform which helped us send results out faster, which was a big part of the reason we were able to sustain during this period, because COVID was a fucking roller coaster.
So
man.
you saw it in a newspaper.
Yeah.
How long after were you like, this is coming to life? Like, you saw it, was it like light bulb, let's get started
It was
ASAP?
it was like days.
Wow.
It was like days. Yeah.
And were you one of the first people to bring testing drive-thrus to Canada?
We were the first.
The first, right.
Yeah, at least in the private market. I think the government may have attempted something. I'm not sure how it went. I think they were doing it like with vaccines at that point. But in terms of testing, we were the first to be doing this in Canada, which was really something special. And then basically we were just like, you know what? I was with my partner day one. We're just sitting there going, we hope people show up. And then MTL blog picked it up like fucking right away. And then I think the first day we were positive revenue, and like we were just like, okay. And then day 2 double, day 3 double, day 4 double, day 5 double. And,
I'll never forget, he gave me a promo code and he's like, you can use this. He's like, you can use this promo code for any
Yeah,
of
I
your
remember.
followers. And I was like, okay, I hope like
someone's gonna
I
use
hope somebody
Yeah.
uses it. And then for whatever reason, he like sent me the file of like the website, and I was like, wait, that many people use the code? I was freaking out. I was like, I didn't even know that many people followed me.
But do you remember after like, I don't know, maybe like a dozen people used it, the code, I made a mistake.
Oh my God. I was like, Daniel, because I used the code and then a lot of people used it. And then
They're like, oh my God, thanks.
And then I was going on a trip again, and I was like, "Hey, Daniel, want to hook me up with that code again?" And yeah, and then what happened was
It was supposed to be 10%.
I was like, "Daniel, what's the % code that I can give to my followers?" And he gave me the code, but the code was what I would use to get it for free.
Yeah.
So girls were messaging me after they were using it and saying, thank you so much. Like, I actually didn't have to pay. It was free. And I'm like, how?
Expect an invoice, by the way. No.
I'm like, how many people? And then he messages me. How many people used it? Like 50.
30. No, it's like 35 who got the free.
35 people who got it for free.
Yeah. Expect an invoice.
I would charge her, honestly.
Yeah. No, we obviously
we
emailed the clients. We're just like, sorry, but here's,
because you still have to put your credit card in to get it.
Yeah, well, no.
So you were able to.
We refunded them, and I remember we sent them like an apology email. We're just like, here's a 50% off coupon for the inconveniences. It's like it's my fucking. Yeah, I blame you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I asked you for the code, and you said my last name. He's like, well, I got to remove that now.
Yeah, exactly. No. I mean, look, it's. I guess it's shit that happens, but like.
That's just business. Yeah. He's like, well,
cost of doing business. Sometimes it's.
Sometimes you gotta give.
Like that.
That's crazy though. Opening up the first drive-through where were you though? Were you even in Toronto? And
yeah, we were in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Banff, Whistler, Edmonton, obviously Quebec. Did I say Toronto?
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about the idea is that it wasn't necessarily like it wasn't an innovation, like you didn't invent the idea of the drive-through, but the fact that you just nailed the idea
Amazoned it.
Yeah, it's exactly it, right?
Yeah,
it's just like, how do we make this more convenient? How do we make this faster? How do we make it more efficient? How do we, enhance the customer experience? Because like it's something as unsexy as COVID testing. Everybody is just like, like when we launched, people called me a fucking lunatic. They're like, you're nuts. And we managed to position ourselves in this market in a way where we would have influencers reaching out, and I reached out to them, and we had people tagging us.
You think I'm an influencer?
I was referring to other people, but no problem. Flatter yourself. No, but I mean, it's definitely not all of our the reason why we did it, but like we managed to make COVID testing sexy almost.
Yeah.
Where people were just like, I'm gonna fucking tag Go Test Rapide.
Yeah.
Why? Because whatever. So that was something that was very challenging, is we had to take away the stigma of COVID testing.
Yeah.
And it's something where like people were just like, we had like a Go Test Rapide truck, and they're just like, please don't send the Go Test Rapide truck to my house, because like they didn't want their neighbors to know that they're possibly being tested for COVID, as if it was like HIV.
Yeah.
Right.
And we realized that there was a problem there. We're like, no, it's just a drawing. Like, don't worry about it. It's just like a
Which makes sense
drawing.
though. I mean, at a point, it was very.
It
like,
was.
Yeah, it was like,
what do you mean you got a test? You didn't get your results
I
back?
think-
Yeah,
exactly.
I think also just
you
like
got COVID. Okay, so you're coming out this weekend.
literally even just traveling in this time, it was like people were judging you if you were doing it. So
it was. It was terrible. I mean, it was just.
some people are judging,
so
other people are
judgy.
making millions of dollars off of
It was
business.
Crazy.
It was so judgy, and I think that's where we kind of shined in a way where it's just like we kind of made it this like socially acceptable activity, where people were just like, oh, they were proud to like go get tested, and they felt like they're like doing a social service
Yeah.
by going and getting tested. And I think that once that caught on, like the influencers were definitely integral in this part, because like if it wasn't for them, then we'd just be like another couple of guys with some tents and cars driving through it. But through social media, we were able to kind of give this vibe of like, oh, it's not actually all that bad, and if you're just kind of open about it, then it's okay. And it was a successful year.
I'm gonna be honest, if I was a competitor and I was coming in and you have this whole build up done, like how would you say you made it that anyone else who would enter the market would have such a little percentage to grab from?
So that's basically was our goal from day one. We're just like, okay, how long can we keep this market to ourselves, or not keep the market to ourselves or other people, but like how long can we scare the shit out of everybody?
Right.
It takes money. You got to spend money on digital ads, billboards, etc. But I think it was more about just like, let's go big and let's go really, really, really fast. So we opened up a second location within a month, and then a third, I think the month after that. And then we started to expand to the West Coast. And that went really well. And then we kind of had this like national brand, and with all of the money that we were pumping into ads, I mean, people were just like, there's no other
Yeah,
company.
I saw how much money you pumped into ads, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's but it's important, right? It's important because we scared the shit out of everybody for 9-10 months. We sat alone or virtually alone in a market, and we kind of came in with this concept that was just a little bit different than everybody else, which was more convenient.
Right.
So
Yeah.
people were drawn to it. They're just like, oh, I don't need to have a stranger come into my house and assault me with a COVID swab. Great. If I could do it in the comfort of my own car, like.
I
That's
think there was a
perfect.
lot of aspects that you nailed, which is important when it comes to a business. Like, of course, like you can have the right business idea at the right time, which is already what you had. You know, you came up with the idea. It was at the perfect time. You executed it perfectly. But it's also the way you went about it. Like you said, it played into advertisement, influencers, all these things that helped your business be what it is today, because it could have just fizzled out.
So
after.
I think
You
that's-
could have started it, had the drive-through, and someone came in and still
Oh,
beat
yeah,
you
like,
to
if
it.
there
Yeah.
It
was
doesn't
somebody,
mean
if
because you're
there
the
was somebody
first
else
one.
who's like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to open up 3 locations while they have 2,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're the biggest. Yes, it would have been a problem.
Yeah.
But we played our cards right. We luck and timing is also a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the biggest difference, is that we didn't just try to create a business. We tried to create a brand. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's intangible, and that's something that gives lifeblood to a business, is creating that brand and building it from the ground up, and making sure that people remember your name. And it's not just like, oh yeah, that COVID testing place. Like, it's always like, oh, Go Test Rapide. It was just like, you weren't even getting a COVID test. Yeah, I'm going to Go Test Rapide.
Mm-hmm.
People knew already what was going on there, right? So I think that's something that is so important when you're building something, is to recognize that there might be a brand here somewhere. And if you can build a brand, you could build longevity. And if you can build longevity, then all of a sudden it's not a 1-year thing. And talking about pivoting businesses, we're pivoting again, right? So now, I'm not going to say COVID's over. I don't think COVID is ever going to be over. I think the testing business is going to be around for a very long time. But to build something sustainable now is what our goal is, right? So we opened up this health and wellness aspect of the business, GTR Santé, where we're kind of shifting dynamic a little bit, going into that kind of wellness, and still staying with the testing. We're going to offer testing at all of our locations,
So
but with
smart.
the IV hydration therapy, with blood testing, with a slew of other testing coming out. Botox is very, very likely.
It's so
And-
funny though, because when I think of IV, I think of like when I'm in Vegas and I'm like, I need a
Right?
booster, or like it's a very Vegas, Miami thing. So I remember I was talking to someone who was in Miami, and they're like, I'm going for an IV thing, and I'm like, it's so weird. Like, it
Why don't we
really
have
just doesn't exist here in Montreal.
So
When I go to bed, I want to be comfortable. And what's better than boxers that are just so soft? You can have just great dreams. You know what I mean?
100%. It's the only good thing that a boyfriend could give you. Good pair of boxers.
100%.
Like, we break up, you're not getting these back. Sorry. These are mine now.
Do you know how many boxers I have that I never gave back? Not only boyfriends.
Manscaped just released an even better pair, because I'm telling you, their boxers before were the softest thing to ever touch my ass. But these ones, I'm pretty sure they're even better, because they are called the Jewel Pouch, and they're the Boxers 2.0. And every time they come out with a 2.0, a 3.0, and 4.0, it's just so much better. So
It
I
took
can't even
2
wait.
years for them to create it.
2 years. So imagine. And luckily enough, we have a discount code for you.
Guys, Chemical X at checkout to receive 20% off your first order or your 50th order, because you're going to be adding a lot to cart with these new boxers. So Chemical X at checkout for 20% off and free shipping.
And if you're looking for a little something to put over these very these very comfortable boxers, then I have another brand for you to check out. Isotti. They are Italian-made, tailor-made suits for you. There's nothing better than, first of all, tailor-made. Second of all, Italian. I mean,
Daniel, how good do you feel in a suit?
everybody needs a good suit.
and
Everybody needs a
tailor-made
good
to
suit.
you, just hugs in all the right places. How good is that?
I'm sold.
Sold.
And if you're not sold yet, then with our discount code Chemical X at checkout for 20% off, you will be sold. I promise you.
100%. Well, 20%.
It's not even Montreal. This is what I love.
We're just
I
behind.
love
Would you
this.
agree we're behind on
I-
all?
But I love that. As an entrepreneur, I fucking
I
love
can't
it, right?
imagine.
Because
Yeah.
like
the ideas are already there. You
the
just didn't bring
Canadian,
them.
Literally.
the Canadian market.
He's opening
is
up them newspapers.
sleeping. Yeah, no, they're like we're sleeping, right? Everything we do, it's always later, which leaves the door open for a lot of people. And because we're
That's
kind
true.
of
I never
this
looked
small
at it that
market,
way.
we're this tiny little minute market compared to the U.S.
Which is why I think people don't necessarily bring things over because they're like,
100%.
well, we don't
We're-
have this. It's like, you know, the IPs,
Canada
we're not
is an-
Vegas, you know, like,
Yeah.
Canada is an afterthought, and especially Quebec.
Yeah.
Right. So
even
Quebec
worse.
is even worse after Canada because they're just like, imagine a U.S. company coming over. They're like, okay, let's try and push the Canadian market, and they're just like, bienvenue à Quebec, where
Yeah, is
your
your
Right.
French?
yeah, the OQLF, and they're just sitting there going, it's 3 times the amount to start the business. Like Target came in, right? Target came in, and they're just like, well, we're gonna make the investment because we believe the market is there, and then they're just like fuck this, like bye.
They're like, see ya.
Yeah, send it out. I think that I don't know how long they were around.
I
It
don't
felt
even
like
think longer than a
It felt like
year.
a year. So I mean, it's really possible. But like, if you can make it in the Quebec market, you can make it in the rest of Canada. Now, if you can be alone or almost alone in the Canadian market as a whole, you can make it as a business. There are enough consumers in Canada to have you have a successful business. And the fact that Canada is such an afterthought to the U.S., the ideas are already there. Now it's just about tweaking them a little bit to the Canadian market.
Making the name French. That's it.
Exactly.
That's all you
Yeah.
gotta do.
Just add a le in front of it and like you're good,
Literally
right?
add
Le.
le IV.
Go test
Le
rapid.
drip. Le drip. No, but it's the Canadian market is a very interesting it's
Well,
a very interesting thing.
Sorry, I realized when I had lived in Australia for a year, and when I was there, there were so many things that I was seeing that were so normal there, and I was like, why don't we have this? Like, it's these ideas that even
Yeah.
still now, like I lived there 4 years ago. For example, there's a fast food restaurant called Lord of the Fries.
He's taking your idea. I hope you don't.
Yeah. I've
100%.
already started
Honestly,
a
I'm not
business
gonna do
plan.
anything. Take it.
You know what? Everyone's
Anyone
taking it.
listening? Let's see who can start it first. There's a fast food company called Lord of the Fries. It's like a McDonald's, but it's all vegan food. 100% vegan. They serve Beyond Meat. It's chicken nuggets, but it's all when I say like I'm not vegan. I'm meat eater.
I was
as
gonna
fuck.
say you lost me. I'm a red meat guy.
No. I would go eat there because it was so good. Like it wasn't even just marketed towards vegans. And
Copper
it wasn't-
Branch?
No.
I
It's
mean,
called-
but I'm saying
it's not healthy. It was like not a healthy thing.
It
was,
just happened
it
to
was
be
fast
vegan.
Food,
It was
but
fast
it was
food, but it was
vegan.
vegan.
Oh, okay.
So it's like at the end of the night, everybody's drunk. Everyone's going to Lord of the Fries. Everyone was eating Lord of the Fries. It was at every street corner, like a McDonald's. Super popular. Not only marketed towards vegans, but I guess it was the cool thing. And it's just to say, like, we do not have one place here that can consider themselves fast food vegan to that scale. Like this was like, and just like you said, how do you make, testing cool? How do you make vegan food cool? At the end of the day, there's a certain like idea attached to it. Whereas they totally went the other way with it. They're like, vegan doesn't necessarily need to be healthy. Let's make this good.
Yeah.
Let's make it amazing. Let's open our market to anyone. And they're hugely successful. And still now, 4 years later, like this has been open for years and years and years. It's a
just
huge
like the number one
franchise.
place, yeah.
And I look at Canada, even in the US, it's like I don't know one vegan fast food restaurant. That's a chain restaurant.
I mean, the U.S. market's a little bit different. I'm not sure how well a vegan restaurant would do in, like rural America.
Yeah,
But-
California though.
Yeah, in California, you're talking, but California
Yeah.
has its own fucking market. Like,
right.
But Australia, I would say, is very similar to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even that they have a huge vegan population or anything. It's just crazy how they managed to make something that has its very niche clientele
Mm-hmm.
and make it so big and so accessible for everyone that you want to eat vegan food.
why not
like,
if you think it's cool, right?
it's
like,
literally
yeah.
it's literally a burger. Like it's so, not only is the quality good, but just the idea itself was so interesting.
Yeah.
Because when I think of vegan, I always think of somebody eating a salad,
Like I hear vegan and I'm just like
Right?
You've
But I'm
lost
telling
me
you guys, if I
already.
would bring you to this place, it's like a burger it's like a McDonald's. Like you walk in, you have your fries,
Crazy.
everything is vegan. They have poutines, they have everything. And
You're making me hungry.
yeah. But I just thought that it was so interesting to go there in a completely different country and think like, why don't we have this? Like
Yeah.
the idea is right
But-
here.
but-
It's
but
right here. I see that it works.
Isn't that the beauty of it, right?
Well, that's the beauty of
and
travel.
I guess we trash Montreal and just Quebec so badly, but
Montreal
like
is an unbelievable place. It is a very small pond with very big fish in it. there are a lot of really important, influential people in Montreal. There's a lot of very important businesses that are here in Montreal. And I think that Montreal is an unbelievable place. It is the absolute best city in the world, and it is also the worst fucking city in the world. Between the months of
I was like, where's he going?
No, between the months of like November and February, like, fuck off. Like I can't believe I live here. Every year I curse that I still live in this fucking
So
city.
what made you go from like testing to I'm gonna start IVs?
Because we built a brand. We built a brand that people loved, right? And people had confidence in our brand, and I'm sitting there going like, I'm not letting this shit go.
Right.
We built something here. Let's continue.
But
to
why
fucking
IVs? Like,
because nobody else was fucking doing it. Right. So it's like I look at something and
it's actually years. Like Tanya's saying it, I'm saying it. Like it's crazy.
If there's 100 people doing something already, like I don't want to be part of it at all.
Yeah.
I'm the last man in the pool. Like it's not a good business opportunity. Like for me personally, it might be for other people. It's not for me personally. If I'm not first or one of the first, because I know there are some other places that do it in Canada, but like if you're not breaking barriers and if you're not disrupting a market and if you're not making a lot of fucking stupid noise, don't bother. There's
Facts. Just don't bother, guys. Go home.
I mean, it's all about how you do something.
Yeah.
Uber was not the first rideshare app that existed. They're just the first rideshare app that
did
took
it,
off.
that did it
right.
fucking well. Like
yeah,
you go.
and people forget that. Like, I think I do agree with what you're saying. Like, don't go into a market that's already oversaturated. But sometimes if you look at an idea and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. It already exists, but I could do it better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know how to do it better.
So, like,
that's what's important.
100%.
If you want to know if like you're an entrepreneur, go watch Super Pumped on Crave. I think it's on Crave.
I don't have
Pretty sure it's on
We're all
Crave.
gonna go watch
You
it.
can use my account. It's fine.
He's
Like,
like,
Go
like
watch.
I said, 3 businesses.
Yeah,
He'll
go
give
watch
us the
Super
promo
Pumped
code.
on Crave. If you don't get inspired, and if you like, I couldn't sleep. I like legit couldn't sleep after I watched the show. It's like a mini series. It's fucking very well done.
I'm
But
gonna watch.
like it was so inspiring, and it gets your brain turning to a point where it's just like you lose sleep. And I think that if you like, it seems like such a terrible analogy, but like if you watch a show like that and you feel inspired to go and fucking do something, then you have it in you, right? And don't be afraid. And that it's a dramatized show, obviously, but like it's so it consumes you. And like I had to binge it. It was like done in like 3 fucking days. But it's like it's such an amazing show, and I truly believe that like when you watch something like that, and if you're inspired and your brain starts to think about your own business and how you're doing things and how you could apply what you just watched to what you're doing,
That's cool.
then I think you probably have it in you to be an entrepreneur and to be successful. You may not know it already, but if you feel that way after watching something that kind of builds you up like that, I think it's something that you're supposed to take notice of, and maybe you just write it down, a couple of your ideas, and you can develop a business into that.
Yeah. I want to talk about how you've managed to pivot 2 of your businesses twice. So Something Neon, which we didn't really go into depth, but you have a neon company, and you said you started selling masks to stay relevant. I'm assuming now you guys are back doing neon signs, but for that time, that's what worked. And then now you had your COVID testing business, and you're pivoting that to be IVs and wellness centers
And Botox.
Yeah.
Botox.
So how important is learning when to call something quits or deciding how to make it work? Like how does that?
That's a great
Because
question.
you could have realistically said, okay,
Thank you,
COVID's not a
bye.
big thing anymore. Goodbye.
I made my money in COVID.
Yeah. So at what point do you decide I'm gonna either take this, somewhere else, or
Start
I'm
a
just
new
gonna- I'm just gonna
business
call it
or-
quits?
yeah.
Because I could never. First of all, pivoting from neon signs to masks is something that like
It's like
what
where's the
fuck?
fucking
Yeah.
What the
where's
fuck?
the connect? That's why like the
But
only thing
it worked.
Yeah, the
But
only
it
thing that I
worked.
had to hold on to was like our company color, which was pink.
Yeah, but it's not how it worked.
Right.
So like, how would you translate that to other people who are like, my business is maybe it's hit its plateau, it's going down now. Do I pivot or do I just call it quits?
Should I stay or should I go down?
I think that if your business plateaus, it's because you stopped caring. you stop trying.
Wow.
Right. So it's like there's always connection. I don't give a shit. Like you can, I obviously I don't personally know them, but like you can talk to the Musks, you can talk to the Bezos of the world. They haven't stopped working. They can, they don't. Right. So when you feel that you call it quits, these guys don't call it quits ever. And I'm the type of person, I'm last man off the ship. Right. So if there's a boat sinking, I'll be the last guy off. But it's also the same thing in business. Right. If my business is going to succeed, I'm going to go down in fucking flames. Right. I'm going to make a lot of noise when I go down, and I'm going to do everything that I can to keep a pulse. So for me, it's kind of a natural feeling that I have that goes like, okay, this was great. What else can I do? How else can I monetize? What more can I bring to this business and add value to this brand? Is it a different product? Is it a different service? Is it a different, whatever? So you really need to kind of sit down and analyze your business and just like, how do I continue to keep fucking growing this thing time after time after time after time? Right. And if you become complacent, then I think your job as an entrepreneur is probably, come to an end, where I think that, most people who have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, it just doesn't stop. I don't even think that you know how to turn it off. You just keep going because that's all you know how to do. It's just, continuing to continue.
Have you had, like, in the past, before doing the neon signs, before COVID testing, did you have any businesses that you started, failed?
Yeah, so I lived in Mexico for 4 years. I ran a Sea-Doo company. We did jet skis and parasailing and all that stuff. And I came back in 2014, 2015, something like that. And look, it was a learning experience. You learned a lot about yourself. You realize what you can do, what you can't do, know your limitations. But I think that in every person, every entrepreneur, any guy who's ever going to run a business, I think that the important thing is that you don't compete with others, but you compete with yourself every day. And that you just do the best that you can do every day, right? So you take all these life experiences, good, bad, doesn't matter. You just kind of put them in your little filing cabinet and you pull them out as needed. And you're just like, I remember that experience. I'm not going to go through that shit again. Right. So you take what you learned and you move on from it, right? So when I came back, it was a eye-opening experience where I'm just like, okay, I got to get to work. And I started to be an electrician. And right away after like year one, I'm just like, okay, this
isn't for me.
Well, it's not that it wasn't for, like, I was either waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning or I was going to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning because I was working like the night shift. And I was just like this isn't for me, but I was really good at what I did. And
I got a couple of jobs for you.
Yeah. I've retired. But when I was an electrician, I was
Don't say you're really, really good too soon.
Careful what you say.
No, so I was just like, okay, like I was like, how do I create extra income out of what I'm doing already? Because like the path to like in electricity is like you would have to do like a 4-year apprenticeship and then write an exam and you start to make like good money, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. And I was just like, okay, like I need that like now. So I was like, okay, what is a job? And through my like little jobs that I would do, I would start to see the jobs that people would hire me for. It's just jobs that like electricians or like full-fledged electricians didn't want to take. And I was just like, okay, hold on. Let's analyze this for a second. I was being called to like change light bulbs. It's crazy. No, it's nuts. But I quickly realized that like it's the easiest, it's the fastest job, and I could charge whatever the fuck I want because the electricians who were charging $250 to walk into your house didn't want to do it. They weren't being called somewhere to change a light bulb or 2 or 5 or 10 light bulbs. They're just like, no, it's a waste of my day. So I kind of found this like gap in the market where changing light bulbs was going to pay good money. So I got on a plane. I went to China. I started sourcing my own LED. Just fucking retarded.
Talk about entrepreneur at heart.
No, literally.
Do your fucking just
do I was just going to say that.
The gap in the market. Yeah, that's what we're different, man. Like I said, you're either born with it or you're not. I was not born to say, how can I make light bulbs? You really said light bulbs.
I was a glorified
But that's
light bulb
literally
changer,
an entrepreneur.
But I was making like $50,
That's
$60
crazy.
But,
an
and it's
hour.
funny because I never really took a look at like neon signs. I know you were looking into buying one once and you DM'd them a while back. But when I was looking at his signs, I'm like, they are very different than any other signs I've seen out there. For example, ours.
So we do things a little bit differently, which is like, again, the core of any of the businesses that I'm involved with is just like, I don't accept the status quo. I just don't think that it's okay. I think that people who accept the status quo will remain status quo. Mm-hmm. I think that the people who like to kind of disrupt and change things and the way that the way things are done, I think they're crucial and they're an integral part of society. And that's the way that I look at everything. I'm saying, that's great. How can I make it better? So when we started to do the neon signs, you would have like, all these people, like, again, you have like acrylic on your neon sign. Nothing against your sign, but whatever.
You're insulting. You better be coming with a replacement.
So what we would do is we would remove the acrylic behind the neon signs, and that's really what we got popular for. We did Michael Kors, we did Louis Vuitton, we did Drew House, we did Nespresso, we did all these different kinds of like large brands because they're just like, your shit doesn't look like the rest of it.
Yes.
And they could recognize that, right?
Absolutely.
And then we started to do stuff on art. We used to include neon on art, and we would work in collaboration with
I saw his
artists.
things, literally the sickest stuff.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, just like, don't accept the status quo. Like Jake Carl's Midday Squares, he says it's the best. He says, be unapologetically yourself.
You want to try that again?
Unapologetically.
Can't take someone's quote and then not nail it.
Right. So, but he's just like, it rings so true. And like, those who don't want to like fuck with you, like, be yourself. Those who don't want to fuck with you, like, fuck them.
Yeah.
Like, fuck them.
Why waste your time? Why waste your time trying to?
Want to try that again?
Watch it there, Missy. I will say though, something that's really interesting is all your businesses, like pretty much everything you've dipped your toes into, from light bulbs to sea-doos to neon signs to, there's not much correlation. I'm gonna be real. And what I think is interesting is that sometimes the most successful businesses are things that you would never be like, for example, so many people nowadays want to have a clothing brand. Everybody wants to have a clothing brand. It's like the cool thing to have that like bumping clothing brand. But then again, like, how many people are saying that they're hugely successful off owning a clothing brand? Whereas look at the businesses that you're a part of, it's not something that somebody wakes up one day and be like, I can't wait to own a fucking testing company. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's not
Shots
like, it's not, no, but it's not like something that is like a passion project, But what I think is interesting is people overlook these areas of the market of industries because they're not necessarily quote unquote cool enough.
Yeah, and people
whereas neon signs, super cool.
Yeah.
But then you look at COVID testing, which is your business that has been taking off and really took you to the next level.
Not so cool, apparently.
Not so cool. Right?
Not so
But
cool.
I mean, I just think like a lot of people put themselves in that box and be like, I want to do something cool and like I want to be the CEO of this sick company, but then it's not generating what they wanted to.
But then you look at it, and when you tell people, go test Rapide. I'm like, that's my company, and they're just like, that's fucking awesome.
I'm not saying that it's not awesome.
No, I'm not saying that the company and the product or the service itself is not fucking cool. It's not something that somebody wakes up and they're like, bro, I can't wait to see my fucking name all over my COVID testing center. Like, you see it.
That's the thing, and I think a lot of people, they're entrepreneurs. They just want to be they want their name attached to something that's like cool. But in reality,
I fucking hate.
Yeah, in reality, the money is in the things that nobody like. You were saying the other day is like, a guy who sells ketchup packets and he's a fucking millionaire. He
sells ketchup packets to airlines, and that's like
and
his fucking business.
I'm watching Selling Sunset, and the guy coming to buy this $50 million house has a fucking broccoli farm. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, I didn't know the broccoli business was booming.
Exactly, and,
and
everybody wants the clothing business because they're like, I want people to like wear my thing, and like that's my dream. But at the end of the day, your dream should be to make fucking money. No?
Oh my God.
Not really
Yes, but I do recall you saying you wake up every day with purpose.
Yeah, okay.
And when people come up to you and they're like, Your Go Test Rapide, like it fuels you.
Yeah.
I agree.
How proud are your parents?
I would hope very proud. I mean, they do tell me often enough, but
Cute.
I hope that they're proud, and I hope that I did right by them. And I think that it's important to not only be an entrepreneur, but to be a philanthropist, right? To give back, to help. And I think that's something that really...
We're a charity, by the way.
Volunteer.
Neon sign?
We're a volunteer nonprofit.
No, but like it's important to give back to your community. Like when we started the testing, the first thing we did is we're just like essential workers, daycare, teachers. They all got 50% off or whatever. It was like $20 tests or whatever.
Still a
it was.
true
Weird,
business
unless you got
guy,
free.
though.
Yeah, it's 50. It's not free.
Free, but let me tell you, when I saw the
I got overhead, man.
he came out on top. Don't worry.
Yeah. But no, I think it's important to like do these things.
Yeah.
I think businesses now need to have a cause as well. I think it's super important. I think that it humanizes you in a way, and people like to support things that give back as well. So like if someone's paying, $7.99 to watch your podcast, but 10% of it is donated to like dog shelters or something, like I would be more inclined.
Well, now we
Speaking
have
of dog
no
shelter.
choice when we start this to give 10%.
Milo, you're getting 10%. Here's a new bone. But I just think it's interesting how, there's so many markets that people overlook.
They did,
But
yeah,
it's an
100%.
asset to the people that are really hungry for a successful business, because everybody, like I said, wants that cool business, and in reality there's so much money to be made in these
like,
essential
not
areas.
cool
It's like
businesses, right?
look at the people who, I mean, I'm not gonna say this because obviously
Let's
toilet
go.
papers are always gonna be successful,
Recession
but it's
proof.
like but it's like, look at COVID. These toilet paper people went from being as successful as you can be to somehow the need for toilet paper tripled.
Yeah, you remember that?
But it's
The
like,
Costco
imagine
the
being
Costco
Charmin.
crisis?
Like, I
Yeah.
want to be Charmin, but nobody wakes
For
up.
many reasons.
Yeah, but nobody wakes up and says, I want to own a toilet paper business. But I think that's what's interesting about being a true entrepreneur, is that you're ready to get into any business that's going to be lucrative and that you see.
Yeah.
And you're not just doing it because you want to look cool, which I think is what a lot of people do.
Right, so you can
And
that
that goes back to the beginning, what he was saying about people saying they're
Yeah.
CEOs and they do all this. But
Exactly, because people just want to be like recognized as something because
Yeah.
their business maybe is not such. But I think there's something really important about filling not only like a want but a need. If you can go and have a product that Maslow's
hierarchy of needs. Maslow's or Maslow's?
Oh,
There's a
I think it's
hierarchy of
Haslow's.
needs. Haslow's hierarchy of needs.
He's like,
Yeah.
listen,
You lost
You're-
me.
So we went to marketing. It's probably one of the only things that I learned.
literally the only
This is-
thing.
But hold on, this is why I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because I did absolutely nothing in school. I didn't do homework since grade 8.
I know it's not
guaranteed.
history class,
Well-
but listen up.
Well, we
go.
learned it
Listen.
in marketing, but it's basically the hierarchy of needs, of like wants and needs, and like at the top of the pyramid is needs, and businesses that get into that area are things that are essential, like toilet paper, dish soap, food, things that will never, and not every food, but things that
Never
you'll
not
always need.
needed.
Never not needed, just like needs, basic needs, water. And when you fit into that market, you will always have a customer.
Oh yeah.
You will always have a customer no matter what. And then you get a little lower, and then it's like things that you need, but then it becomes a choice. Like, do you want
Yes.
oat milk? But
Right,
you can
it's-
have
it's-
regular,
it's a want, yeah.
And then you get lower and lower down the pyramid, which makes it harder and harder to market
To find a
business.
customer,
To find
right?
a customer,
So it's
exactly.
like during COVID test, literally my customers, like the prerequisites for my customers was, are you a human being? And do you have a pulse currently?
And also,
And I'm
it
pretty
became
sure-
a need. It literally became a government.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go somewhere, it was like actually
mandatory. It was like mandatory, right? So
Yeah.
like again, it was just like we ended up in this position where we're just sitting there going like, okay, people not only like need our product, not want the product, but need the product, and then the government went and made it mandatory. And
you're
like,
like,
if you
heck.
want to get on a plane, you got to get tested.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Right, and we're just like, we need to get bigger. We need to open more
Yeah.
locations. We need to handle more customers, and it just kind of extrapolated from there.
As someone who has two businesses, would you say it's better to put your energy into one or two
Or
for it to be successful?
Would you say it's better to have multiple businesses, or only focusing all your energy onto one?
So it depends.
And Elon Musk answered this. So
Oh yeah, I actually didn't. I didn't
It was
hear,
time, it
I
was
didn't
time.
hear his answer, but I will say that it depends on where you're at with your business. So I wouldn't.
like you were telling us.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily have gone, and if like something Neon was like a startup and I was in startup mode like first couple of months, and then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck this, like jump ship, go test rapide, I probably wouldn't have done it. But the fact that something Neon was established and sort of kind of in autopilot, like we're still paying attention to the business by all means, but I was in a...
But things are controlled and more
right?
like...
And then what you do is you insulate yourself. You get a really good team. Like my right hand, Tanya, who runs, my businesses, she's amazing, and it allows me to continue to do other things and to go and acquire other and different businesses.
Right.
But you have to get to that point in order to do it. A human being only has so much time in their day. They need to sleep. They need to recharge the batteries sometimes. So... is it better to focus on one or on two at the same time? I would say definitely one. Build your business, build your brand. Once you've kind of have something and it's sort of kind of in autopilot, you can hire somebody to help with like business dev or whatever it is, and then just kind of help you run it while maybe slowly increasing what you're doing in that company, and then you can kind of start to focus your efforts a little bit on something else, which will drive in a different kind of a different revenue stream.
Totally agree.
So I had a girl ask a question. And I wanted to ask you on the podcast. And there's two that I really wanted to focus on. And the first one was how to manage day job plus housework plus relations plus business plus health plus fitness plus family. Okay. You're like, you just gave me...
That's a lot of things.
You're
basically,
like...
what's your work-life balance?
Yeah, my work-life balance...
He's like, get a nanny.
...is fucking zero. I wish I was better at that. I'm not. I know what my limitations are. Me shutting it down and turning off, it's not one of my strong suits. It's good. It's also bad. So I think everybody should have a work-life balance. Like if somebody were to ask me that question, like, oh, what should your work-life balance be? I can tell you what I think it should be, but in reality, what it is completely different.
I feel like a lot of successful people say that.
I try to do my best. I've worked hard at, weekends trying to not, take all the calls and answer all the messages and go through the emails, set aside times to do it where it's like, okay, like I'm going to answer emails and messages for 2 hours. But the truth is it's like an addiction. And when you build a successful business, it's addicting. And it's not so easy to just be like, oh, okay, like, oh, it's Friday, let me go out with my friends and get hammered and wake up at 3:00 the next day. Like, it's not an option, at least in my personal experience.
What would you say is the key to your success? What's unlocking the door, Daniel?
Determination, desire. It's what gets the engine going. I think that you're waking up every day and just trying to be the best version of myself is really something that's super important. And I think it's important for anybody, not just entrepreneurs, just literally anybody, whether you're going to work and bagging groceries at IGA, or you have a business, or you have a multi-million-dollar business. Do your best every single day. Don't compare yourself to others. You'll get depressed, right? But if you just kind of look in the mirror and you're satisfied with who you see, and you know what, today I'm going to make myself proud. I think that it's important. I have kids, right? I have a family. I gotta set an example. And the only way that you can do that is not by being a giant piece of shit, like a lot of people are. And it's so fucking unfortunate, but I see it all the time. In business, there's a lot of rats.
Yeah.
And you deal with these people on a daily basis, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm glad you're not my kid, or you're not my father. I'm like, I'd be fucking ashamed of what you're doing and what you did. And if that offends you, then you know exactly who the fuck you are. But
talking directly to camera there.
No, but I mean, it's true.
Has anyone ever fucked you over?
I mean, there is a lot of people. Business in and itself is a cutthroat,
it is
industry. And to succeed, you always have to, in some way, be cutthroat, step on other people's toes. But, you know, how do you see that?
There's a way to do it that it's still respectable. Right. There's
ethical.
Well, business ethics. It's a real thing. And I mean, like, if you're going to do it, that's fine. Like, it's part of the game. But at the same time, there's a way to do it and be respected, and there's a way to do it and be, you know, piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And you see it every day, and it is what it is. And I try not to let these things bother me, and I put it by the wayside. But, like, you know, we see it all the time. We had people steal our marketing. People change their company colors to look like our company colors just to try to confuse customers. I mean, like, it is what it is. Does it bother me? I'd say I don't think about it more than 5 minutes a day, but, you know, it's still 5 minutes of my fucking day. I value my time.
Time is money. Before we wrap up, I just have one last question.
Yeah.
For the people that are listening that are maybe an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneurs, what would you say is either your biggest, you know, lesson, advice, or
both,
or failure that could give some insight for anyone listening?
Figure out what you want from your business, from your product, from your service, whatever it is you're offering. Figure out what your goals are. Like, I know it sounds like very cliche, but, like, sit down, write out a business plan. Even if it's not very good, doesn't matter. Figure out what you want to get from that business, whether it's money, whether it's respect, whether it's power, or whatever the hell you want. But just try to figure out what you want from that business, and then figure out how to get there, right? And just work every day. Keep your head down. Go to work. But if your mindset is, I'm going to work for 3 days on this, and then I'm going to go party for 3 days, and then I'm going to take a day of recovery, then you really need to evaluate what you're really doing, right? I think that to run a business, it's a 24-hour thing. It's a 7-day-a-week thing to run a successful business anyways. And I think that people, like, again, it's really cliche, but, like, apply yourself. Figure out what you want and go and fucking get it done. And don't stop until you do. The people who are relentless are the ones who succeed. And those who give up and become complacent after they've made 1-2 good moves end up falling off, right? So that you see a lot of people, they have a little business, and then it just kind of fucking tailors off, and then next thing you know, they're opening a different Instagram account with a different business. I'm pretty sure we all know a couple people like that, right? And just fucking apply yourself and create something that's good, something that people need, and be proud of what you're doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be your brand, but literally the action of getting there should be a drivable force to actually make you, you know, proud of what you're doing. It's not necessarily the product, the service, but it's about the act of, you know, doing everything to make sure that your business is successful so you can stand behind it and be really proud.
Yeah. Because a business without somebody who's, like, proud of themselves behind it is a weak business.
I agree.
You know? Amazing.
Wow. I feel like I'm reevaluating my entire life. You?
Sorry about that.
I mean, I feel like this made me, you know, I'm not an entrepreneur. That's just what it is.
No, don't say.
Well, I'm not. I don't.
It's got
it's no
dark
shame.
real
I don't want
quick.
to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. I know my strengths. I'm not an entrepreneur. That's just what it is.
But I will tell you this, is you have good partners. I think good partners are so key. I would not be where I'm at without my partner, and he knows it as well. We both bring different aspects to the business.
100%.
We would be, you know.
I think it's also really important to know what your strengths are and what you're not good at, so you can,
your
like,
partner should be complementing that.
Yeah.
If you're both fucking firecracker, one's fire and the other one's fire, it doesn't really help. But if one's fire and one's
Did
water,
you know when you got together with the guy who had the hookup for the masks, your partner, did you know that he was the right partner?
So the masks was my guys in China, but with the testing,
the testing.
He's somebody who I knew for 20 years.
Okay.
And
did you always in the back of your head know, like, you would have done, you were gonna do something with him? Or
we almost did something, like, I think 1 or 2 times before in different businesses. So I brought, like, the neon stuff to him, and we were trying to make a DIY neon kit, and anyways, it was whatever. But,
like to kind of
like,
just shape it.
I engineered a neon strip with a 3M, you know, tape on the back, and you can kind of create your own signs on the your own, like, shapes on the wall. We never ended up going through with it. But it was somebody who I always respected.
What?
They sell it on Amazon, but
yeah, exactly. Now they sell it on Amazon, but I'm talking like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, don't worry.
But
if I thought of light bulbs, I was there before Amazon.
But no, when we approached this business, and it was just like, it was synergy. We understood one another right away. It's like
Right.
it's like same brain. You know, we're talking and we're just like, oh, we literally write messages like, I was going to say that, like one right after another. And it just works. Sometimes partners are the best thing in the world. Sometimes they're not. Right? So you really need to find somebody who you can trust, you know, to get things done and to, you know, be responsible and who's not going to steal. And these are things that are so important in a partnership that, you know, go unnoticed. So sometimes partnerships work out and sometimes they don't. It is what it is. But if you find somebody that you jive with, I mean, why the fuck not? If they complement your strengths, I'm terrible at accounting, like terrible, but he's
Also history.
yeah, also history.
Well, I don't know.
86%.
86% made me think you just didn't like it.
Yeah, well, I was dumb in school, but I wasn't stupid.
Street smart.
There's a difference between the two, right? But yeah, I think if you have the right partners and it works, then you're on easy street.
Perfect. Well, guys, I'm hiring for a new partner. So with that being said, thank you so much, Daniel. We really appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule. We know you want to get back to your phone and answer all the emails. But you gave a lot of insight to people who might find themselves, you know, in the same boat as me, thinking maybe this is not for me. And you know what? It's the hard truth. Not everything is made for everyone, but everyone will find their place. So thank you so much.
100%. Thank you.
100%. He ends it with 100%. If that's not somebody who watches the podcast, I don't know who is. Bye, guys.